Uh, we got interviews, different perspectives, interview. Listen and learn what winners do. Empirical wisdom.
Like me, like training female fighters and training male fighters. Male fighters are constantly, they're so dramatic, and there's a lot of like this and that. The women that have trained, like they stay quiet, they train, and they just keep going. Like there's not much complaint. Now, when I'm saying this, I'm not saying that they don't vent out. What I'm saying is like, when they're doing something, they just go. They just go.
You want me to tell you where that comes from?
That
my own humble personal opinion, because I feel women have always been made to be the inferior sex, so they have so much to prove. They feel they have so much to prove, so they're linear, and their focus is very linear.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm at right now. Like, all my life, I've been pretty much shit on, and even by my own dad. There's a conversation my dad and I had today. I said, Dad, I don't know what it is. Is it because I'm the middle child? Is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm a strong woman? But it seems like when I come in and make these decisions and do what needs to be done, like, he tends to gear more towards my sister, maybe because she's older, or he can manipulate her more. But I think because of that, we had laws that didn't allow us to vote. Think about the history of women, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. And I use that as fuel, because we have been made to be the inferior sex.
Yeah, and I can certainly see that, and that's why women, like, they probably feel like they have something to prove in that sense. Like, I can agree with that, and that's why they're so driven, because they become competitive.
Yes,
right, and which is great. Like everything else is balanced.
It's a double-edged sword, because there are women that can, there's no need to compete. We're better together.
Yeah.
And it's taken us such a long time to get there. And you're still going to have these women that want to compete. They want to be the prettiest and want to have the best clothes or the best money. But when it comes to business, the most powerful networking groups that I belong to are women.
Absolutely.
Are women-only groups.
Yeah.
Because of that. I mean, even working in the insurance industry, all the little comments. Oh, she's a single mom. Psst, 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 psst. Like, I wouldn't be able to get as much work done. So I felt like I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
So I would work my 8 hours, obviously, but I would come home and turn on my laptop. I had like my dinner time, my family time, and when the kids were settled, watching their TV in their time, I got my laptop open and I would work probably an hour and a half. But that time put me up. So I always felt like I had something to prove. Your focus becomes linear.
Yeah. And it puts you up, but at the same time, at some point, if you're not being careful, it'll burn you out.
Yeah, you have to find the balance.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's really hard, because women tend to be the nurturers.
Yes.
The problem solvers,
And it's super tough to be driven, goal-oriented. And so in that sense, you have to be like a warrior, right? Yeah. Like, you have to be a warrior. And then you got to stop being a warrior just to be the nurturing part, for your kids.
Yeah.
And so you playing like all these roles.
All the different roles.
And it's kind of like a roller coaster, very emotional, very psychological, and things like that. A lot of things, especially in the Hispanic community, are very like generational.
Yeah.
So they learn that from their parents, and then they get passed down. And I think like in every family, that you're always going to have that one person that's going to break the cycle, right? But as you're breaking the cycle, you got to take a lot of crap, because it's kind of like you teaching yourself how to do certain things that you're never taught or you're never programmed, right? Like you can be too introvert, too shy to speak your mind, or to do certain things, or to go for certain things, because they always told you like, no, if you're a woman, if you're a man, this is your role, and you got to stick to that role, right? And you can't do like, especially my generation. Like, I remember like, if you're a man, you shouldn't be cooking, you shouldn't be ironing clothes or washing clothes, and things like that. And fortunately for me, my grandmother, like, she taught me how to do those things, and it was pretty open. But there's a lot of people that still haven't overcome that. and they still struggle. And that's why they feel like the woman is the one that has to do this and that. And I'm like, wait, so you're expecting your wife to go to work, come back and cook for you and do this and do
And you're
that?
not
How does that
helping.
make any
Yeah.
sense? You know, and that stopped. I mean, for me, that a very long time ago. You know, like the tasks and the household tasks and the you know, the responsibility, like I think is divided, right? Like between the men and the woman. Like there has to be some type of compromise. And if you don't know how to cook, then go grab something to eat, you know, but don't force people to do certain things they're not accustomed
No, I
to.
totally agree with that.
And
But I do think that's why women are so powerful and
Yeah.
so driven, is because there's so much to overcome. I mean, we're in
Yeah.
2022 and we still are in this cycle that, you know, one sex is better than the other.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, that's not the story. I mean,
Yeah.
they do say behind every amazing man is
Yeah.
a woman, is a strong woman, but it shouldn't
fully
be that
agree with
way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that in a sense because, like, I think, okay, I do and I don't because what happens, I think, like when you're trying to pursue something, like if you're a man, you should have a strong woman. If you're a woman, you should have a strong man by your side, right? To like
Balance.
to be supportive in that sense. Now, as far as like the woman playing a secondary role, I don't believe in that. Right? I think like the woman should have as much power as the men, and both of them should be equally respected. You know, but unfortunately, because of generations of like always looking at women as being the housemaker and nothing else, like there was a time women didn't go to college. You know,
They couldn't vote.
Yeah, so there's so many things that they had to overcome that obviously. But there were women along the way that broke the cycle. You know, they said like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm going to do what I want to do. You know, and they went out there and they stood up, and obviously that has benefited the next generations. You know, and to like even today, like you say, like there's still a little bit of that machismo, I guess. You know, and like obviously physically we're always going to be different, men and women. You know, there's certain things that men are not going to be able to do, like give birth and be have the threshold, like the pain threshold. You know, like women have, they're so much stronger when it comes down to pain. But men do other things, you know, in the physical aspect. But as far as like your brain, your intelligence, you know, like men or women, I've met many very intelligent women along the way, you know, and they were very driven. They didn't see themselves as, even though other people might see them as being different, you know, they didn't see themselves like that. And I think that's the case in that's your case, because obviously for you to like drive yourself to have your own business, to become an entrepreneur, you know, and do those things, you know, says a lot about you, you know, your courage and stuff like that, because obviously, as you can see, you have to break the generational curse.
It's very difficult. I was battling multiple different things, like even with my own father, whom I love tremendously. I wouldn't be half of what I am without the support of my parents, but there's still that generational, you know, trauma. And I remember one time where I had Gio already. Gio was maybe a year old, and I wanted to go back to school, and I was already working. And my dad goes, "Why do you have to go back to college? Why do you need a degree? Why don't you just become a secretary?" I know that's like a bad word now. Like Martica. So she was our neighbor. And I brought that up to my dad today. I said, "Do you remember when you told me that?" Like, it was so defeating. I said, "Do you know what Martica is doing now?" Because we still keep in touch. She was my neighbor from childhood.
Yeah.
And she's 60 and barely is making ends meet. On welfare, on, you know, helping her mom, but struggling because we keep in touch. What if I would have gone down that road? What if I wouldn't have put myself through school, you know? And I told him that, and he says, "I remember that day." Like,
yeah.
And then Gio was 6 months, and I was at my aunt's house, and her fiance at the time, they weren't married, and the cousins were playing, and my aunt was in the kitchen and didn't know that I could hear her. And I tell this story all the time when in any interview, because it is what set me into that path. Never mind when my dad said that came later. I overheard him saying, another Hispanic man, the stepdad, God rest his soul because he's passed, he said, oh my gosh, in Spanish, que lástima. She'll just end up being another Puerto Rican on welfare with that baby. So it was summer, and it was probably 98 degrees. And they lived over off Jean Street. It was probably 1.5 miles to get to my house. I put Giovanni in his stroller and I left. And I said, that will never happen to me.
Yeah.
And that set the tone for me going, why do men always think that? Like, okay, yes, I did have a baby very young. I was 19, 20 when I had him. And I'm not going to be the victim.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. Not if I want better for my kids. And that has stayed in my head to this day. I was 21 when that happened. I'm 53. And anytime I want to give up, because being an entrepreneur, is very hard. I remember that day. I go back to that day. And that 1.5-hour walk maybe, because it was so hot, to get back to my house. And I remember my mother asking me, what happened? And I was like, nothing. I just wanted to come home. I never told anyone. I just dealt with it because in the Hispanic culture, you didn't go to therapy. You didn't cry about things. You don't do any of that. And that was the catalyst. That's what pushed me to say, wait a minute. There's got to be better than this.
Yeah.
There has to be.
But that was something within you too, because like if someone else would have heard that, it probably would just like that would have been the end.
Yeah. Could have defeated them.
Yeah. And that's very true, because even with my wife, they were like her family, like even extended family, was like very like you should just go to work 40 hours, get a paycheck, take care of your kids, right? And she was like, what do you mean? Like they didn't see anything more for her. Like obviously when her and I, because I've known her for a very, very long time, I would always tell her, you can go to college, you can do this, you can do that. And one day she calls me and she's like, I'm at the registers and I'm registering, and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, okay.
Good for
so
her.
She started going to school, taking up some classes and stuff like that. So she, at that moment, she broke that cycle, that curse, because like they looked at her as like 40 hours.
Yeah,
she already had a kid, 40 hours, and just be happy with that. Go and work 30, 40 years and retire. And that comes from like, then again, that Hispanic generational curse. Yeah, everyone is like, no, here. And it takes someone with courage to like break it.
It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do.
Because it's not just breaking it, but it's also like sustaining it. And a lot of people can't sustain it. Like because they'll just start breaking it and they start hearing all the negativity and stuff like that. And they just resort back to whatever they're accustomed to, But you didn't do it.
No. I just, it does take a lot of strength and a lot of courage. And that's why, the old saying is like, be mindful of what someone else is going through. Like mindful of your words, because that literally could have sent someone else to depression, anxiety, commit suicide. It was awful to hear that from somebody that had known me for a little bit. And I was like, wow, is that how he sees me?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that person. And I think that's what motivates me, just that particular moment, to inspire other women, other young girls. My assistant right now, she's young, she's 20, she's pregnant. And I just want so much more for her because I see all the potential. And again, Hispanic and generational trauma and a mother that's not really around and a father that just wants to do whatever. And I look at her and all the young girls out there, you can do so much more. You can be so much more. Not saying that being a wife and a mother is not amazing, because if that's what you inspire to be, do it.
Yeah.
And then do it with everything you have. Do it with love and compassion. Like, we need stay-at-home moms, to be honest with you, with the craziness in the world. We need more, but we can't. It's very difficult now, unless you're like, you know, a millionaire, to be that stay-at-home mom. You know, can you do it all? I'm going to be super realistic here. I always tell people, no, you can't. Something will give. And I had this conversation with an actual lawyer. I had to fire her. I was in charge of hiring and firing attorneys and stuff when I was in corporate America. And she got really upset with me. And I said, well, honey, you have a job to do. I'm paying you. She was like maybe a $400 an hour attorney, but she also had 6 kids and one had a disability. And I said, and I understand that, but I am a realist. Yes. Can we really we can do anything we want. We can inspire for greatness. But when you put a ton of the stuff on your plate, something's going to fall off. So you got to look at everything and say, okay, where are my priorities? What's going to come first? And that's how I had to explain it to her. Like, I have a job to do and you have a job to do. So if you're not doing your job, or you're not doing it to 100%, what's going to happen? And years later, she was very upset about losing us as a client. She sent me this really nice email, and I saw it was from her personal email, not a work email. Yeah. And she actually thanked me, because she knew that she was stretching herself really thin. Yeah. And she took a couple years off to stay at home with her kids and give them the time. And now they don't really need her as much. So she started her own firm where she can have more flexibility and decide what clients she wants to take and not take.
That's awesome.
And, you know, and I know there's a lot of women that hate when I say that. And I said, no, you know, if you pile so much on your plate, eventually stuff starts falling off, and then that's where you lose control. Yes. So you have to look at this big picture and go, okay, where do my priorities lie? Yes. Like, obviously for me, my family, my kids, they're my first priority. You know, I love my company. I love Roasted Whisk, and I put everything I have into it. I probably smell like coffee and cookies right now. But if this side over here is not stable and secure, it will spill over into this side. So you just have to look at your priorities. And, you know, for me, my priority was making something of myself. I wasn't going to be a statistic anymore. What that man said basically was a statistic. Yes. And I didn't want to be that. And I don't want that for my kids. I am a Latina, you know, born in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, you know, until I actually sat back and looked at all the things that I needed to take care of. I was like, wow, okay, you go, girl. I pat myself on my shoulder. I didn't do too bad, you know?
Absolutely.
From being pregnant.
And Perth Amboy is a pretty small town. I've been there. So,
it's very little. It's nothing to write home about. You know, my dad says the memories were good. I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I just know it's kind of run down right now. Yeah. But to get out of the hole that I built, I'm not that victim mentality. Yeah. Hey, I lied in that bed. So what do you do now? You make a plan and you execute your plan. And that's even what I try to tell my son, who, you know, he's 10 months sober today. Woo-hoo.
That's awesome.
You gotta make a plan, and then you have to execute the plan. Yeah. And you have to not set your expectations so high. You reach for the stars and you have goals, but I like to have, okay, so this is my list of all the amazing things I want to do. And then this is my list over here of how I'm going to get there. So when you start knocking off these smaller goals to get to your larger goals, you feel such a sense of accomplishment. And I think that's where women flourish. We know how to create that atmosphere. So you want that gratification, that quick gratification. So you make this small list here, okay? Like, okay, today's list is accomplishing this. And when you're scratching things off, you're like, yes, I did that. But all this should get you to here. So my goal right now is to grow Roasted Whisk to a multi-million-dollar company. So I have this list to get to here. And it feels good.
And no, but that's amazing. That's amazing. And that's why I think it's so important to understand, like, and it happens even with the fighters, right? They get so caught up on like here, and they forget this.
You forget the steps.
And I think like and that's not good, because I feel like you're saying, that's probably why women are so good at those things, because they create objectives, right? Like it can be a daily objective, a weekly objective, in order to eventually reach a goal, right? So they go step by step by step, and they start like boom, 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 and they get all the way to the top. And men have this tendency to like they want to know everything right away, right? They want to go from A to Z right away. Like there's no A, B, C.
Right.
Like women are very good at like creating those objectives, and like, you know what? I want to become a nurse. So what do I need to do to become a nurse? I want to do this. I want to do this. Then this is next. That is next. Boom. Eventually, boom, they become a nurse. Men are like, oh my God, how long is this going to take? Oh my God, I'm going crazy. You know what I mean?
It's the instant gratification that men they typically want.
Yeah.
So the majority of men, you know, and I don't want to like spill over into the sex comparison, but think about it.
Fine, yeah.
Like think about that instant gratification. You can't get anything, okay, or your wife is asleep, but you have a way to handle that. So men, that's the way their brain works. Okay, I'm dealing with trying to really kind of reprogram my son's way of thinking, because he spent so much time using drugs, into you'll get there. Like he wants things now.
Yeah.
But that's not the way life really works. You got to put in the work to get here. Like you said, he wants to go from A to Z. And let's think about this. Even if you go A to Z, okay, if you're not trained for all the steps, so you're poor, you do a scratch off, and all of a sudden you win $1 million. So you went from A to Z. But if you don't have this in between, the balances, the financial knowledge, the maturity, how long is that $1 million going to last?
It won't last very long.
Which is why a lot of fighters win 1, 2, 3 fights. They get the seed money. They got all this money. They got some sponsorships. Boom. They have no knowledge of what to do with that money. And then all of a sudden, you're a $5-6 million fighter or whatever, but you have no money.
Yep.
Mike Tyson.
Yep.
Talk about Mike Tyson. Didn't that happen to Mike Tyson?
Yeah. And that's why I try to share with the fighters, like, not just like how to make it to the top, but also like how to be human beings, right? Like how to conduct their business, how to brand themselves, how to promote themselves, because it's important. Otherwise, you don't have a good solid foundation. And you might make it, like you say, you win the lottery, you're at the very top, and then you're gonna crumble. You're gonna crumble because there's no foundation.
There's no foundation.
Right? So that's why, to me, it's so important that people understand like the steps. Because at any point, no matter what happens at the top, you can always recover. But if you go from A to Z and then that collapses, you won't know how to recover because you've never been through the steps.
And you see it a lot, like with these young celebrities, YouTubers, TikTok sensations, committing suicide left and right because no one taught them what it's going to feel like to be at the top. Oh. Everybody grabbing at you. Grabbing. And it's so overwhelming. Yeah. And then it leads to anxiety, depression, mental illness when you don't have those foundations. You saw that with Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Her fall from grace was heartbreaking. I don't know this woman, but I was cheering for her.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, somebody get this woman some help. But she was supporting her family at 12 years old and 14 years old. Over-sexualized Hit Me Baby One More Time was a very over-sexualized song. She was 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fall from grace was ridiculous. So if you don't have that foundation, I don't care how many millions of dollars you have, it's a tale as old as time.
She was making the money, but no one ever mentored her or taught her like how everything works. You know,
everybody did this. Yep. What can I get? What can I get? What can I get? What can I get? Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. So on your climb, as you teach your fighters, it's so important to teach them balance and life and humility, I know that there's a college football coach. I wish I knew the school that he made sure that they took accounting, finance classes, because the rules for NCAA changed. They now can make money off of themselves and their brand in college.
Yeah, with the sponsorship.
Yes, with sponsorship, which I don't agree with because I think they're very young. But if you have good coaches and good people around you to use it, to properly show you what to do with that.
Yeah.
Because there's a price to pay for being known and for having money.
Oh, yeah. Now people are going to be in your space. Everyone is handout. But not everyone, but a lot of people will be. And I think this is the reason why we're doing this little podcast, because I want to start inviting people. Like I got friends out there that actually teach other people how to build their business. I got people that are accountants and stuff like that to come and share that wisdom, the knowledge with not just the fighters, but with people. Because we lack a lot of that. A lot of when we're young. When I was growing up, no one was really teaching me those things. I had to learn along the way. Someone said something, or I saw someone else doing it, or at times I didn't even know what the hell was going on. And so I had to pick it up here and there, which I did. There was very basic stuff that was given to me, but it was more be a professional, go to college, do this, do that. But they don't teach you the other stuff that's actually what really matters. I got friends that didn't go to college. I got friends that didn't finish high school, and they doing really, really well. But then along the way, they had to learn how to do all those things. Fortunately for them, there was someone that came along the way and said, look, this is how you do taxes. This is how you write a check. This is how you do this. This is how you create an LLC. And that's what I appreciate about you, because I always see you try to mentor the people that come and work for you.
Oh, I try. It's a thing for me. I know, my dad scolds me all the time. You take on too much. And I said, no. I will believe that God gave me the gifts that I had. It's a blessing, and it's a blessing to help other people see these things. My assistant, she didn't know how, Medicaid, Medicare disability works. So I taught her that. I was able to teach her that. I love that she has her own views, and we talk politics a lot and stuff, and we try to keep things low key. But I love that part of being community and teaching these young girls about okay, you make $150 a week working at PDQ. Pay yourself first. Okay, and when I say pay yourself first, look at that paycheck. And how much of that can you move into a savings account and it's not going to hurt you? You could still pay your phone bill, your insurance. And when I'm talking 17, 18-year-old girls that are going to graduate, that are confused, our education system, has gone to poop. Okay? Yes. That could be a whole other... So they need that. They need the guidance. Yeah. And to me, it is my responsibility. It is my calling that, yes, I have this great business and it's doing amazing, but I want more. I want to spread hope, and I want to teach other girls like my daughter. My daughter has an amazing work ethic. I've seen nothing like it. Even with her back injury, she's still playing. She's did amazing with TB12. They've been amazing to her. I don't know what the hell happened to Tom Brady yesterday, but again, that's another podcast. Our Bucks look like Pee-wee football players.
Yeah.
But... I took that time that I saw that my parents really didn't take with me, but again, generational, in a Cuban Puerto Rican household, it was, the women find good husbands to take care of them. You don't really have careers and all of that. And I was like,
you gave your life to someone else.
Yeah. With her, she's like, I want to live a good life, but I also know I have to work for that.
Yeah.
She's working a part-time job. And she's a softball player in college, and she maintains a pretty decent.
That's awesome. No, she's a good girl. She's been doing really good. But I think you also you the biggest influence in that case.
Yeah.
Because you program her to cultivate the work ethic and the mindset. and that's like so key. Because a lot of times people always say like, oh, you got to be a good parent, right? But when they're talking about being a good parent, meaning like you got to be a good parent to your kids. But from my perspective, I'm like, but my kids live in this community. Mm-hmm. So I need to be a good parent to everyone around here.
Yes.
You know, not just my kids. My kids are going to go out there.
Yeah.
And so, like, and that's a role that you're taking. Like, you're not just being a parent to your kids, but you're also trying to be, and I don't want to say the parent, but that kind of like a quote unquote parent to other kids, you know, because your kids are going to live in this community. You know, they go out there. So it's our job, it's our responsibility to also better our community, you know, not just our household. Like my household, oh, it's intact. Look, you know, everything is perfect. Then they go out there, and so what do? You keep your kids at home? Like,
no,
you know.
I agree with that 100%. My parents used to be like, oh, like if there was a problem with other kids or other families or other things, this is what I would get. No te meta. Don't involve yourself.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't believe in that. If we're not involving ourselves in different things, like how do we grow?
Yeah.
How do we grow as a community, as a neighborhood, as a nation? There's too many of us with our fighting. There'll be kids fighting and everybody's with a damn phone.
Yeah.
But nobody's stopping the fight. And nobody not only is stopping it, separating those kids. Find out what happened. What is going on? Maybe they just need a little help.
Yeah, resolve it for them. Sometimes, like,
help them.
Conversation.
Conversations resolve all problems. The only thing you can't resolve is if you're going to die.
And I think people got lazy, to be honest with you.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because when I was growing up, the neighbor, your uncles, whoever, if you were like being silly out there, you were getting scolded.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, they would go and tell your parents. And, like, so you had to be in your best behavior at all times. Like, everyone was involved in your upbringing.
And there was no, like, Karen out there. Is
Yeah.
that the word everybody uses? Like, you respected everybody in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay? And there was no texting, no cell phones. In growing up, I lived near Leto High School.
Mm-hmm.
If I heard my dad whistle, I knew that was to bring my butt back
that was
inside.
the thing for me.
Okay?
Same thing for me.
The rules were, when the lights went on in the street, your butt better be in that house.
Yep.
And if I got to come out and get you, it's going to be grabbing you by the ear to bring you inside. But I think it's a little more serious than laziness. I honestly believe that we've gone into this culture of keeping up with the Joneses. Okay? So let me work 100 hours a week instead of the 50, okay, 50 or 60 or whatever, because people are just working more and more and more and more. Because, my neighbor bought a bigger house, so I need to get a bigger house. Yeah. Or so-and-so has Gucci's. I need to buy Gucci's, okay? And I've seen this. I have seen this even with my friends trying to compete with me, and I'm laughing going, if these people only knew that I'm still wearing leggings that are like friggin' 10 years old and I don't give two craps, because guess what, money goes into my savings account, I'm buying a new investment property, there's no need for that.
Yeah.
But it's such a combination of different things, is that we've gotten lazier. Okay, we don't want to be involved, we want someone else to go do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then sit there with our video and go, look. And then the whole keeping up to the Joneses. Why?
Yeah.
It's just so unnecessary,
I'm always like thinking, like, I don't understand how some people buy those expensive cars and then they go to work and they park the car outside for like 8-10 hours, to working to pay for the car and the beautiful house that sits up by itself. I'm like, listen. You might have a house, but I have a home.
Yes.
Like, like my wife can literally sit down and watch movies with my daughters, or all my kids. They'll sit down and watch a movie, spend time, go to eat, just like you do with Sammy.
Yeah.
Just like you when you go out to eat with Gio and things like that. And I think that's so much more important than anything else. And if you can invest in yourself, like you're saying, like, you went out there, got the property and things like that, that's an investment in yourself. Like, it keeps you disciplined too.
Yes.
In order to achieve those things. So when does this whole like entrepreneurial mindset kicks in? Like when, like, what happened? Did someone come along and say like, "Hey, you know what, girl, you got potential. You should open something up," or you just woke up one day and like, you know what, I don't want to work for anyone? Because that happened with my son.
Yeah.
My oldest son, like he was working at Publix. Um, One day he texted. He was a good worker because I knew some of the other kids that work at the same Publix, and they would tell me like, "Oh, Jai, he's such a good worker and stuff like that." Um, and he texted me, he's like, "Dad, I don't want to work for Publix anymore. I want to do my own thing." And then he went on, and like as soon as he finished high school, he just like started his own little business, and that's what he does. He works for himself, his own schedule, his own everything.
What's he doing?
He does a lot of e-commerce.
Okay.
Like yeah, so like
Is he
he's
drop shipping?
drop shipping, all kinds of things. So he does like he does a lot of really good with those limited edition like sneakers and things hard to get. Like he does really well with those things. You know, that's his little business that he's been he's had for like this past years, and he doesn't bother anyone. He's got his own schedule. He's you know, when he wants to nap, he naps. But you know what? A lot of people, what they don't see is like he'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get online because that's when they dropping a certain pair of shoes, or they dropping something else, or he's buying something from overseas, which got different a time difference. So he's waking up at different times. People don't see that, you know.
No,
people
they don't
just see the
bills.
product. Yeah, so they don't see him waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. He's texting me, you know, like, "Hey, Dad, blah blah blah," you know, "Good morning," so things like that. So he's always going, but he's doing his own thing, and you know, and I never had that, you know, because I was programmed to like, you got to go to college, you got to do this. So I did go to college, right? Because that was my program, and I went to college, and you got to do this, you got to do that. And then one day I was like, but I don't. Okay, I got my degrees, and I don't want to do that. Like I want to coach. Like I've been in sports all my life. This is what I've done all my life. You know, like so. It just took me in that direction, and if they would have paid attention to me, maybe they should have. Someone would have. One of my parents should have been like, "Hey, you should have went to school for like psychology, sports psychology." It's like, because I see that you got an inclination towards stuff like that, you know, to talk to other people and things like that. And it would help me so much more, you know, because I even tell people nowadays, even if you want to have your business, you should take a psychology class. It's good to know how people think, how they feel. You know?
That is really a good point, because people tend to, it's not about buying your product, it's about you.
Your brand.
Somebody told me that the other day. So I wholesale to Dwell Home Furnishings or Home Market out in South Tampa, and they have a new pop-up on Water Street, which is now like the bougie district of Tampa, with our new fabulous new 5-star hotel, the addition to that Water Street there. It's actually really nice. I don't know if you've gotten to go out there, but if you get a chance for the holidays, go out to Water Street. Beautiful, beautifully decorated. And she told me that. She goes, "Your coffee's amazing. Your Cuban coffee is the best we've ever tried. We've had Butelo in here. We've had numerous brands, and we love your Cuban coffee. But we're buying because we love you, because of who you are and what you've built and what we see you doing out there. So we want to support you." And that was like, wow. So I've taken a few classes and talking to other entrepreneurs, and it's all about you. It's all about you, your brand, how you represent yourself, you know, your part in the community. You know, I'm very big on supporting teachers.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I'll be going to Morgan Woods right behind us.
Not only teachers, you do a whole bunch of different things. Like, you know, you say a little bit, but they don't say everything. And there's a lot that you're involved with, which is great, because you not only like utilize your business obviously to create your personal goals and stuff like that, but you also like have purpose behind it. Yes. You know, and that's what I try to tell people. Try to tell the fighters, right, Brandon? You guys got to like tell people who you are. Like, if you like your animals, let people know that you like your pet. You know, if you like surfing, if you like doing this or that, let people know. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your brand, no one's gonna believe in it.
It's all about your
because
story.
They don't feel it. Yeah, they don't. There's no connection.
Exactly.
You know,
they need to connect with you. Yeah. They need to connect with you on a, they need to know who you are. And you're absolutely right. Like, people know my passion, If I could jump in and save every dog, I would, or help every teacher with what they need at the beginning of the year, I would. Mental illness and addiction is a big passion of mine. Obviously, I've lived it for almost 16 years with my son, and that's a big passion. Walking these steps with my mom, and dementia and Alzheimer's has become something very close to my heart. I mean, my mom was, you think I'm fiery. The sass that my mom has is times 10. I mean, she's an amazing woman. I mean, a woman who lived through Castro, who ran guns at 14, had guns strapped to her. Okay? My grandmother was the first woman to revolt and jailed against Castro. And that's how they would run the guns, taped to my mom. Right now with her dementia, she has manifested that memory into that. She killed Castro and Castro's brother. That's what she tells all her people. But, passions grow and change.
Yes.
But the bottom line is, have one.
Yeah.
Even if it's one passion, even if it's save the whales, or you have something that you just love so much, share that.
Yeah.
Because you can connect with people. And that's what it's all about. It's about community, connections, and just telling your story.
Oh, absolutely. Look, that art right there is from a friend of mine. She's always doing painting all this different thing and stuff like that. And I told her, I said, listen, girl, I want that. I was like, I want to frame it up. And I have another one somewhere back there. And I said, you have to understand that through your art, you can change many lives.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a lot of people that gravitate towards art, and they see those things, and you can inspire them and motivate them, to come out of a little hole that they might be in, or maybe they're stuck for a little bit, and if you put it out there and you present that to people, there's people that need it. We all need sometimes to see that other people that we can, in a sense, maybe relate to, right? And to be the source of maybe a source of inspiration, the source of motivation, right? Yeah. I fully believe that inspiration, motivation is within you, but at the same time, we need from the outside, we also need to have the support, because that takes us a long way. By yourself, you can only do so much.
Yes.
But you need to, like you said, we need to network. We need to create these relationships. We need to be in the moment. Like you said, objectives, right? One day at a time. Have your objectives, but you gotta have a purpose. In which direction are you heading? And a lot of people, what happens, they get lazy and they don't want to cultivate certain things. I see my kids. I like to draw, and I see my oldest son, he likes to draw, but he's never cultivated that. So he's not passionate about it. So I leave him alone. My youngest, she likes to draw as well, but she doesn't cultivate it. But she's into origami, doing this stuff with the papers. So let's promote that, here. But she can draw, but she doesn't cultivate it. When I was their age, when I was young, I was drawing on napkins, on anything that I found on walls, on all kinds of things, But I was passionate about it. No one really had to tell me that. And it's just about cultivating little things. Sometimes people might get impatient. But it's like everything else, you got to stick it out, you've had different businesses, and you have to stick to it.
It's hard. It's very easy to lose faith. It's very easy to give up. But that's where you surround yourself with the people that are going to support you and lift you up.
Yeah.
And tell you, you got this. That's why you'll see every so often, hey, I'm making coffee. If you need to come by and talk to me, my door is always open. Yes. On Christmas, my door is always open. No one should be alone for the holidays. I do my best, especially with family and friends, and it's always there.
Are you going to have cookies this time?
I will have cookies.
Hey, Brad, you know what you want.
Hey, listen, I baked so much before I came here. I should have brought cookies. But I'm like, oh my gosh. I was running. filling out something on the phone to
Yeah.
get here. It's crazy. People don't see that work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
they'll go, oh, well, you're a business owner.
Yeah.
Like, you must...
They think that things just magically appear.
No, it
Yeah.
requires work. Like, I can't go to bed until, like, I write down everything that I feel I need to get done the next day, or I will not sleep because my mind will be working 1,000 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to figure out what to do with my phone because I can't put it on vibrate anymore because of my mom.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But to hear the little so with my e-commerce, I run through Shopify. When an order comes in, it sounds like money. So I woke up to that. Bling, and I was like, oh, that's when I looked at my phone. I was like, who the heck is shopping at 3 in the morning?
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe somebody, who cares? There was an order, but it was funny. You know, people don't see the mess that's in the shared kitchen or all the hard work and how much, you know, blisters in my hands now because I like weightlifting. All the work, like even to maintain a certain size. Like when people will tell me, oh, you're skinny. I'm not skinny. I'm my exact weight and height, you know, it's right. Yeah. But it requires work. Yeah. I'm not 15 anymore where I can eat a box of Ho-Hos and still be a size 2.
Yeah.
I'm 53. I've had 2 kids. So yeah.
And you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful who's telling you that too, because if it's a Hispanic mom, like you come home, it's like, oh, you look skinny. Here, eat. Yeah. So they feed you, then you gain weight. Now, like, oh, you look fat. You know, so it's like never happy. So what drives you? What drives you to like become this entrepreneur? Like what you know, like were you working for someone else? Like
I was working for someone else. If you ask this question to my dad, he will tell you she's been an entrepreneur since kindergarten where I was selling my pencils.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I came home. I forgot which age I was, but I came home and my dad said they found like quarters, like a ton of money in my book bag. And my dad says, where'd you get that from? And I go, I sold my pencils. He goes, what do you mean you sold your pencils? I go, Dad, I'm the smartest one in the class. So people think that if they use my pencils, they're going to get their work done fast. Aren't they dumb? And my dad laughed. He goes, oh boy. And you sold your pencils. Yeah. I go, yeah, I didn't tell them they were magic. That's what they thought.
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of pencils do you use? Look at how pretty you write. I was selling pencils, and then from pencils I went to like bubble gum. Remember the little 2-cent bubble gums? Oh, you're too young, Brandon. But then went to bubble gum, and then, you know, I think I got stuck in corporate America because I became a single mom and I needed to make ends meet and pay bills.
You went into survival mode. Yeah, so you go to whatever's there first.
I went into insurance, which because we are an insurance family, my sister was insurance, my Thea was insurance, it was easy to fall into. And then one day, you know, I'm working at my last company and I was like, is this all there is to life? My 8-9 hours, you know, it was great because I did break a lot of glass ceilings, you know, back then. Insurance and claims is a very male-dominated world.
Yes.
So I knew I had to work 10 times harder because, everybody knew I was a single mom. And all the whispering, oh my God, she takes so much time off. And she's, you know, her kids are sick. Yeah. But I always made up for it. You know, I just work harder. No one cares.
Yeah.
Work harder. That was in my head. None of them have to care that I have kids at home and that I'm a single mom. I got to work harder. I got to prove myself. And finally, I remember one day, like, Jose and I were dating, and I was like, is this all there is? Like, ew. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I want to be my own boss. I think a bigger motivation for me is I want to create something. I want to create a company that I want to run.
Yeah.
So you look at other companies and you're like, you pick them apart, what you would like, not like. Okay. You're a fight coach and I'm sure that you see other coaches and you look at them and you're like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would do that. I like that. So you have your own style, but I'm sure that you've watched others that
you got to become eclectic.
Right.
So you pick from different places.
Exactly. Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. People ask me all the time, how did I get where I was in the insurance industry? Mm-hmm. By watching other people and making it my own. So I worked for USA, I worked for Harvard, I worked for different companies, but I would take different pieces and then kind of mold them into what I could do.
Yeah.
And then I just sat back and said, okay, I don't really want to do this. I want to create something. And I had gotten sick as a celiac. I got diagnosed, and that was really awful because back then there was just no gluten-free food. And I was searching snacks, and that's when I came up for the concept of chef-inspired popcorn because it was gluten-free and I had an illness. So again, when you're building a business, can I solve a problem? Is there a niche? You got to look at those factors, and I had it.
Uh-huh.
And then Chef Inspired was born, making popcorn in the house, and I could build something. So it became art. So like with you, you're a drawer, but building your brand and your company, that's art. You're building something, you're creating something. It's that side of our brain that needs massaging and work. And we all have it. We all are either left, or we have the left and the right, but most of us don't use it.
Yeah, because we get too caught up in that corporate thing.
Yes.
So we don't take time to think about ourselves and to cultivate things for ourselves. You know, everything is like, I'm going to go to work. And then when you come out of work, you're exhausted, you're tired. And this is working for someone else. Now, I'm not saying that like business is for everyone, right? Some people they rather be under someone else and just complying and doing whatever they got to do.
Listen,
that's fine.
I tell people all the time, like, I was motivated to become an entrepreneur and to create a business, and I created Chef Inspired and met so many amazing people. It lasted 5 years, and right before COVID, we sold it. I wanted to spend time with Sammy. That was important to me, to get really good time with her before she left for college. She was going to go away to Maine. I didn't know how many times a year I was going to see her.
Yes.
And then COVID happened. Okay.
Restrictions
everywhere, you know, quarantine. And Sammy and I were just like really bored. And she said, want to bake? And I looked at her like she was insane. I was like, I don't bake. She goes, yes, you do. I go, no, I follow box directions. But, you know, we looked up recipes. And all along we're drinking coffee. It's in our culture. You know, I mean, how many of us, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Colombian, didn't have café con leche in our sippy cups?
Yep.
Okay. I remember my mother doing it to me. I did it to my kids. Like, you pour just a little drop to turn that milk brown. So they think that they're grown up. So we started like, okay, like, And then my mom would come over, and she still had her dementia, just wasn't as bad. And she would ask us to put things in a box. And the light bulb just went off. Like, a box. That's interesting. So I put stuff in little blue, like, containers, Ziploc, sent it home. She was giving it to people in her 55 and up community, and I didn't know. Okay, until quarantine was lifted, and an elderly woman was in my face telling me that she was up till 4:00 in the morning and almost yelling at me, and I was like this, and Sammy's looking at me, I don't know what's wrong, and she goes, oh, but the brownies were delicious. Do you have any more? And I was like, what? I said, do you have my brownies? Well, your mom left some for me on my doorstep. I was really sick. I had COVID. And I asked my mom, how many of these did you give out? She goes, all of them. And then, you know, we started buying containers and just really looking at things. I just knew, even before Chef Inspired, I knew that I wanted to build something.
Yeah.
I was always good with people and a good manager and knew how to create a team. So if I could take that and then build something of my own and be able to employ people, that's, you know, for me is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, right now Jose employs 160 people. Small business is the heart and soul of this country. The minute we forget that, this country's done for.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep creating. You know, some people call me a serial entrepreneur. I don't even know what that means. So, I mean, I'm building something.
Yeah.
And there are maybe 2 other coffee gift boxes companies out there. Multiple gift box companies out there. But the other ones are just coffees in a box. Like I
Yeah.
bring a full experience of everything being coffee inspired.
Yeah, no, you got this like,
Mugs and
awesome
coffee
presentation.
and baked goods and candles, but everything revolves
It's like
around
the
coffee.
gourmet presentation.
And I love that because I wanted to offer people an experience.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, I tell people about being an entrepreneur, like create an experience. There's nothing like it. People love that.
Yes.
They just don't want to get something in the mail and open it. So Skims, I've bought from Kim Kardashian's line. Okay. Never again. Not for myself, but for my daughter. I will give her that her clothing line is actually very top quality. But shipping. So she ships direct in a mailer. Okay. It's brown and pink. But they slapped the mailing logo to that one box. So that's what you see. You open the door, it's a brown box. That's it. So you open it and your clothes are inside. Okay. With me, I could do the same thing and probably skimp out on it, but I love seeing unboxing videos. So I put my pretty white box inside a plain brown box. So now they have to cut that box, and when they open the brown box, they see the logo, the pretty gift box.
Yes.
So it's more about the experience of it, regardless of like, it's amazing products. I bake everything. The coffee's great. Everything is great. But I wanted to offer more of an experience of getting something in the mail from a loved one, from somebody that cares, and it's just cool.
That is so key. But it's so interesting because obviously you present it in the box, but a lot of people understand that there's so much to it.
Yes.
Because getting the boxes, getting the everything backed up, doing this, doing that, getting the little things, all the stuff that comes in the box, it takes work.
Take work.
And then it takes work to prepare the box, to do all those things. And obviously, like, that's the behind the scene type of stuff, that a lot of people don't see. Like, like we were saying, because even without Chef Inspire, you had all these different like flavors of popcorn, but your presentation, the little
The gallons.
the gallons, everything that you did, like the colors and everything.
Yeah.
It's so much work. But people obviously taste it, and people was like, "Oh wow," But I remember going to the when you had the shop over in by Bayshore. Was it Bayshore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beta Bay.
Beta Bay.
Beta Bay.
And going there, you walk in, the colors, everything is just like so appealing. Like it feels good to walk in and see all those like bright colors and those different things. And that's what we were talking about. Like, people don't see those things. Like, so now you got roasted whisk, right? And like you said, people placing an order at 3:00 in the morning at different times. Your phone is just ringing, or the bell goes off. You're like, oh wow, people don't see that.
They don't see the behind the scenes and the work to create something is a lot, and people just think, oh, you have a business, and you're right. It's anything worth having in life for me requires work.
Yes.
Anything handed to you,
it goes away.
Goes away.
Yeah.
It's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
And again, I've said this before, it is a tale as time. I bought my son his first car. He didn't respect it, treated it like crap, and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Totaled it, just didn't respect having a driver's license, didn't respect the money as a single mom, being able to purchase a car for your firstborn. It's a big deal.
Oh, it is.
Now he's got to buy his own.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that lesson. There was a lot of guilt in raising him by myself, so I felt bad, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to buy it for him. No. So it's the same thing with your business. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of effort. That's why entrepreneurship isn't for everybody.
Yes.
And I tell people wanting to jump into entrepreneurship, get a mentor.
Yes.
Get a mentor. Go to some networking groups. Find some, especially for women. There's Working Women of Tampa Bay. There's Power Girls. There's so many out there. And these women are ready and eager to jump in and help you.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do, or that's what I am doing.
And that's what we need. We need a lot of that for women and men. And with for like young people, even better. It's good for everyone, but I think like young people, if you mentor them, sky's the limit. And I tell people a lot of times, I don't know, this is just my approach, because since I believe in community, I think that even people already in the field with they're doing well with their business, not just to mentor the young people, but even maybe be like, hey, listen, I'm going to mentor you, right? Eventually, if you want to open something up, I'm going to help you. I'll be like an investor. You see what I mean? And create that, because when young people hear those things, they feel so much more confident going into something. Otherwise, they become very hesitant. Like, oh, should I do it? I don't know. I don't have this. I don't have that. I think everything has to be perfect. But when you have a mentor, someone that's already been doing it, they come in, they tell you, hey, listen, don't worry about that. Just relax. We're going to work with what we have, and everything else is going to come behind. Like, you got to take your time, put the work in, start branding yourself, do this, do that. And then eventually you'll have everything together, because it takes a little bit of time. And that's what happens. A lot of times they think like, oh, I got to go in there with like $1 million to open up this business because I got to have everything, They don't understand, like, your branding changes with time. Your logo changes, your slogan. Like, maybe you have a little shop and every so often you're going to revamp it. You're going to change it. You're going to have different colors, different seats,
and
different...
Some things may work, some things may fail. Think about Coca-Cola. Remember when they tried like the new Coke or whatever that was called, and that was like a big fail?
Yeah.
So your brand will evolve, and you will evolve. You're not going to be the same. If you're the same person, if I'm not the same person at 53 that I was at 10 or 18 or even 25. Brandon's not going to be the same person when he's 50. Everybody's going to evolve. Your business will evolve. That's why I always recommend getting a mentor, and meet different people.
Yes.
Because it's got to be the one. It's the same like picking a doctor or picking a fight coach. You got to bond with that person.
Yes.
It's like today I have a meeting at 6:30 with a girl for content creation, and I met like 10 influencers at the same time. And I knew I needed some more content creation because I want to take control of my social media. That's why I was like, oh, Brandon does social media. Yeah. So my mind is, an entrepreneur's mind is always working. You're always connecting. You're always moving. And I meet, but out of the 10 that I met, she and I bonded very fast, very quick. We made a connection. We're going to meet. We're going to talk. So that's what I tell young girls and even young men that want to go and be an entrepreneur, is find that mentor. Join a couple of networking groups. There's so many out there. Meet some people.
Yes.
And find one. It's the same with recovery, okay? Gio had a sponsor, and they really didn't, it wasn't working. They weren't bonding. And then he met another one, and that worked for him. So, even in that, you have to have that connection. And it's okay not to be connected with every single person. Every person is not going to like you. Yes. That's just the truth. Yes. Okay?
You just don't vibe.
No.
Sometimes people are just on a different frequency, and it's normal.
And it's okay. Exactly.
It's fine. And then you'll find someone that's like, hey, from the get-go, like, there's just good energy, and things keep going. It doesn't make the other person bad. It's just that
you have to
not everyone is meant to be friends with one another. You
have to find what works for you. You have to find your circle.
Yes.
Okay? Everybody has a circle. You just have to find yours. And it's just, for me, having a mentor in business is vital. Like, Jose's had his company now 33 years, but I want to do it on my own. Yes. So I try not to go to him for every single little thing. First of all, we have different businesses. Yeah. But it was really important to me that I learn from my mistakes with Chef Inspired in this new company. And I start, it's easy to dole out advice and be a mentor. And then you sit back and go, Jesus, did I even follow my own advice? So I started doing more of that in 2022. Like, what would I tell young Lizette of 20? Mm-hmm. What would I tell her? That's what I need to be doing. Okay? It's easy to mentor somebody else, but are you following your own advice?
You got to lead by example.
Got to lead by example. So this year was a big growth year for me in that.
Good.
And leading by example and being the authentic to myself.
Yes.
Subscribe and like our page will put you in the game. The bean bags talk.